Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we are doing something very different. Today, since MotoGP have just finished their first preseason test, I thought I'd give my predictions on the 2022 season. Something that I've never really done before, so do let me know if you want to see some more of this content, me talking about real life MotoGP, because it is something that I've been thinking about doing for quite a while, but I just thought now would be a good time to start. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, I'll quickly go over Moto 2 and Moto 3, so what I think is going to happen in those classes this year. So I think in Moto 3, Dennis Foggia is going to be the Riders' Champion, because last year he was super close on that Leopard bike as well, which is so fast, although there has been some changes to the Moto 3 technical directives, so potentially that bike might not have its advantage anymore, because I think some parts have been made to be performance parts, which means they have to share them. So that potentially could be where Leopard were gaining their advantage, but of course that's just speculation. You don't know whether that's the truth. But it will be very interesting. I think it's going to be a close title fight between him and Sergio Garcia, to be honest. I think those will be the two riders going at it. They seem like the riders that were probably right there last year, but probably will take this one step over the winter and be the two fighting for the championship. Now, I actually think the team's champion is going to be the GasGas Aspar team, and that's just because Garcia, of course, like I said, is going to be fighting for the championship in my prediction, but he's going to be backed up by Guevara, his teammate, a lot better than Tatsuki Suzuki is going to back up Dennis Foggia, because I think Guevara is going to be probably just a little bit off the back of those two. I think it'll probably be mainly those three that are competing at the front, but I think Guevara is going to be just a step below because he's still learning, and I think maybe he'll have an assault on the 2023 championship, but obviously we only talk about 2022 for now. But that's what I think is going to happen in Moto 3. I think Foggia's going to win the Riders' Championship, and it's going to be the Aspar team that win the Team's Championship. So moving on to Moto 2 then, and this could be a bit of a risky prediction, but I think Pedro Acosta is actually going to win the Riders' Championship on his debut in Moto 2. Now, you could argue that that's not a risky prediction, but winning on your debut in Moto 2, not even Raul Fernandez did that, not even Marc Marquez did that. The only rider to do that was Tony Elias, who won the first ever Moto 2 season, so whoever won that title was obviously going to win it on their first attempt, because it's the first season that it happened. But based on Pedro's season from last year, which was absolutely phenomenal, his Moto 3 season was absolutely phenomenal. He didn't really put a foot wrong all season. The only mistake I could think he made was at Aragon when he fell off. I can't really think of anything else particularly. And the pit lane to victory at Doha, his second race, was absolutely unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it, and I doubt we ever will see anything like it again. It was crazy. I don't know how he did that, but yeah, I think his raw pace, his racecraft, it's just going to work for him. He already looked really fast in the testing. He took to the Moto 2 bike like a duck to water by the looks of it. So I think Pedro Acosta's going to win out the championship. I think it's going to be a close fight between him and his teammate, obviously Augusto Fernandez. I think Sam Lowes has got to be up there because, of course, the last two seasons he's been right up there. I think Aaron Canet as well is also going to be in the mix on that Pons bike. Potentially Navarro as well, if he can try and improve a little bit, try and stay on the bike a little bit more. I think that could be quite a close Riders' Championship battle, but I think Pedro Acosta will come out on top overall. And I think similarly to last year, that IO are going to be the team's champion, mainly because there's just going to be two of those riders at the front. Both the IO bikes, obviously Fernandez, Augusto Fernandez and Pedro Acosta. I think those two are going to be right at the front fighting for the championship, which is just going to give the title to IO, because I don't think there's going to be two Mark VDS bikes or two Pons bikes at the front regularly enough for them to be overthrown. So that's Moto 2 and Moto 3 dealt with then. Just wanted to get through those predictions quickly so we can get on to MotoGP, where I've got some more predictions. So my first one is going to be Rookie of the Year. So we've actually got 5 riders up for this year, which is quite unusual. Quite a lot of riders making their debuts in MotoGP this season. So we've got the two Tech 3 boys, Raul Fernandez and Remy Gardner. Obviously already teammates in Moto 2, so that'll be a strong pairing. And we've got Marco Bezzecchi, Fabio Di Giannantonio, and Darren Binder. So those are the 5 rookies. And out of the lot of them, I think Raul Fernandez is going to be Rookie of the Year. Even though he's probably not on the best package out of the lot, I think he is the best rider out of those rookies. Obviously, Remy Gardner was also very good in Moto 2, but he'd had many seasons in there. Bezzecchi had 2 or 3, might have even been his 4th season. When did he debut? 2019, wasn't it? So he'd had 19, 20, 21. So yeah, it was his 3rd season in Moto 2. Obviously, Darren Binder skipped Moto 2 completely, so it's going to be tough for him. Fabio Di Giannantonio as well. He's been fast throughout his career, but he's always missed that last little bit, if you ask me. Obviously, he's won a few races here and there, but he's never really stood out to me as a world champion material. He's always been a little bit behind other people. Although you could argue that's down to equipment, because obviously he had a speed up for a long time and then moved on to the Gresini team, which obviously wasn't the best team in Moto2 last year. So yeah, it's hard to judge Di Giannantonio, but I guess we'll just see how he gets on this year. But yeah, I think Raul Fernandez is going to be the Rookie of the Year just because I think he's the fastest out of the lot of them. That's basically why I think that's going to be the case. So up next then, we're going to go on to top independent, and I think you all know who I'm going to say here, Jorge Martin. I don't only think he's going to be top independent, I think he's going to be right there fighting at the front for victories week in, week out next season. Obviously, he already got a victory in the previous season at the Styrian Grand Prix, I think it was. It was one of the Austrias. I think it was the Styrian one, but honestly, I'm not 100% sure which way round they were. But yeah, he won at one of the Austrias. Obviously, at Doha as well, he put it on pole position and was leading for a long amount of time in the race. So he's shown that even right from the outset, when he had very little MotoGP experience, he was already ready to fight at the front, lead at the front. Obviously, he had that pretty big crash in Portimao that put him out for a while, really set him back. So this year, if he can have a fairly fully fit season, I don't think Jorge Martin's ever been fully fit, to be honest. He always seems to get injured, bless him. But yeah, if he can have a season where he's relatively fully fit, I'd say he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with, because he was amazing last season. I was really impressed with him. So yeah, top independent easily. It's not even a contest. So with the first two out of the way, I'm going to skip the Riders' Champion for now and come back to that in a minute. We're going to go to the Manufacturer and Teams Champions first. Now, I'm just going to say it straight away, I think Ducati is going to win both of them, mainly because, well, their bike is phenomenal. Last year, their bike was the best by far. If you ask me, they've had the best bike since 2017 by a fair way. 2017 was quite close. Maybe you could argue that it wasn't the best bike that year, and it definitely wasn't by far on that season. But every season since 18, 19, 20, 21, I'd say they've had the best bike. 20 obviously was a bit of a dip because they couldn't get used to the tyres. But once the tyres were working, I think it probably was still the best bike on the grid. I just think it's so fast on the straights. Now they've sort of figured out the turning. It's really going to be a force to be reckoned with. They've got some fantastic riders in their ranks. Obviously, the previously mentioned Martin. They've got Pecco Bagnaia, Enea Bastianini. That's just three of them. And then obviously you've also got a proven race winner with Jack Miller. Johan Zarco, a world champion in Moto2. In fact, a double world champion in Moto2. So close to getting a MotoGP victory, but still so far. He could be getting that this season. And then obviously you've got some of the rookies as well. Luca Marini as well. I completely forgot about him. He's going to be better in his second season. He always comes on quite a bit after having a season or so in a class. So yeah, I think Ducati, with just the number of bikes and the number of riders that could be at the front. Obviously, I know they only take the top scorer from the Manufacturers' Championship, but let's say like 7 of the 8 Ducatis fell off. There's still one guy scoring, whereas Suzuki, for example, only have 2 bikes. So if 2 people fall off on theirs, that's their race completely done. No points for them. So I think they're going to win the Manufacturers' Championship, and I think the factory Ducati team is going to win the Teams Championship again, just because the riders they've got are really good. The bike is really good, and they've got 2 riders that can consistently be at the front. I know Miller does have a bit of a tendency to throw it at the fence a bit more than he should, but I think compared to some of the other factories, I think he's probably still the better option for the number 2 rider. So I think that Ducati are going to win both the Manufacturer and Teams Championships in 2022. So moving on to now what I've called my bold predictions, which are basically just my predictions for the season, what I actually think is going to happen winning it, rather than just saying, oh, I think so-and-so is going to win, or things like that. So my first prediction here is I think it's going to be a 2017 style title fight. So many riders with different bikes being involved. Obviously back then we had Rossi, Vinales, Dovi, Marquez, just to name a couple of the riders that, well, actually I think that was the main lot that were fighting for the championship. So I think we're going to get something similar this year. I think the riders that are going to be involved in that actual title fight are going to be Marquez, Fabio Quartararo, Pecco Bagnaia, Jorge Martin, and Joan Mir. I also think there is going to be some other new faces towards the front. So I think Bastianini's definitely going to get a race win at some point and be fighting for podiums, top 5s. But I just don't think he's going to be a title fighter. Obviously, the same, like I said earlier, with Miller, he's a fairly consistent rider. I'm not 100% sure if he'll even win a race this year, but he probably will. He most likely will, but he's not going to be fighting for the championship, I don't think. I think he's going to be a little bit too far off. Same with Rins, really. Well, Rins either crashes or finishes like 7th, so you can't win a championship like that, but I think he'll have good pace again. But yeah, I think it's going to be a 2017 big title fight with Marquez, Quartararo, Bagnaia, Martin, and Mir. I think those are going to be the 5 riders going for the championship this year. Now, this next prediction, this one is where it probably does get a bit bold. And I think that a certain manufacturer is finally going to break their winning streak. I think Aprilia are going to win a race this season. More specifically, I think Maverick Vinales is going to win a race this season. No disrespect to Aleix at all. If he won a race, I'd be really happy for him because he 100% deserves it. But just out of the two of them, Vinales has obviously won previously and won in every category he's been in. So that's the only reason why I'm tending towards Vinales. Obviously, Vinales even won the first round of last season, which is unbelievable. You kind of forget that, but yeah, he actually was leading the championship for about 6 days, wasn't he, in 2021. So yeah, I think Maverick Vinales is going to win a race on that Aprilia because in testing, that bike seems to be very good. Obviously, there's been a lot of things said about it, how they've improved the engine. If you look at the speed traps, they're right up there with the Ducati and the Honda, so it's right up there with the top speed. Fabio Quartararo said that he was following it at one point and it turned super, super well, which from a Yamaha, if a Yamaha rider saying your bike turns well, it must turn pretty well. So yeah, the Aprilia seems to have got a bit of a formula going where they've got good top speed, high corner speed, which will suit Vinales. He's so used to riding a Yamaha. So yeah, I think Vinales is definitely going to win a race. It'll probably likely be Qatar even, because Qatar's always a good Aprilia and a good Vinales track. Silverstone, Assen, Phillip Island, those kind of races. I think the Aprilia is going to be quite competitive at those ones, and I think Vinales is going to nab at least one race win. Probably only one. It would be a bit optimistic to say any more than that, but yeah, I think he is probably going to end up with a win through this season. So that's my prediction for what Vinales and Aprilia are going to do. So moving on to my next prediction, and this one isn't so much a prediction for something I think that's going to happen on track during the season, but something I think will have happened by the end of the season, will all be announced. And I think RNF Yamaha are going to have a completely different lineup come the start of the next year. I think they are going to have Raul Fernandez and potentially a Moto2 rider or Miguel Oliveira. I'm not 100% sure who it's going to be. I think they're definitely going to have Raul Fernandez, but I'm not 100% sure on the second rider. But I think either way, it's going to be two completely different riders going into 2023 with RNF, just because Dovizioso's only on a 1-year deal, and that's more of a, if he likes it and he thinks he's competitive, he'll carry on. I don't think the bike is going to quite be up to par for that, so I think Dovizioso might leave, and I'm not really expecting Binder to stick around longer than a year. I think Razvan Razali does really like Darren Binder, and to be honest, I hope he does well. I hope I'm proven wrong and he does get kept on for another year, because obviously you don't want to see somebody getting kicked out of MotoGP after a year, but I think there's better riders in Moto2 and already within MotoGP that would love to get on an M1 that might be able to replace him. So I think RNF Yamaha are going to have a new lineup for next year. So then, I think it probably is time that we now go back to that previous point that I skipped, the Riders' Champion. I've obviously already said who I think the title fight is going to be between, and now I'm going to say who I think is going to win. And I think Marc Marquez is going to retake his MotoGP World Championship and become a 9-time World Champion, just like Valentino Rossi, which does hurt me to say a little bit as a Rossi fan, but you know what? Marquez is one of the best riders I've ever seen, and I think with the Honda improving in the way that it is, I mean, it's a completely radical bike, which I really like the look of, by the way. It looks really, really nice, but it's a completely radical bike. Honda never do anything like that unless they mean business. Last time they made a big redesign, they started winning with Casey Stoner, so yeah, Honda mean business. When they turn up with a bike like that, you know the bike is going to be good. They're saying it's good in the testing. It's already got more potential than the last bike. Marquez, I don't really care what anybody else says, is the best rider on the grid by a fair margin. Probably not as much as it once was. I don't think he's going to have a 2019 style season, and I don't think it's going to be one of those seasons where he kind of just sits behind and has a last lap scrap. I think they are going to generally beat him on pace, these riders. But I think Marquez is still a little bit above the rest of the field. Not a lot, but I think he still is above them. Being relatively fully fit now for the first time in quite a while as well. And bearing in mind that he actually won 3 races last year while still being injured and on what was not really the best Honda, was it? So yeah, I think Marquez is going to retake his championship. And I think it very much could be like 2017, where it goes down to the last round, a last fight between Marquez and one of those other riders, or potentially even several. Imagine if we had 5 riders in championship contention going into the last round. That would be unbelievable. Never seen anything like it before, but yeah, that would be crazy. But that's what I think is going to happen. I think Marc Marquez is going to take his championship back. So those are my predictions then for the 2022 season. So I hope you guys did enjoy that. If you do want me to do more real life MotoGP content talking about the races or give my predictions, do let me know. I do actually plan on doing a tier list of the liveries soon as well, once they've all been released. Obviously still waiting on Aprilia and VR46 at the time of recording, but they'll probably be out by the time this video comes out. But yeah, I want to maybe dig into a little bit more real life MotoGP content, still keeping the gaming stuff, of course. If you are new to the channel, do feel free to drop a like on the video and subscribe, because it does really help me out. I don't tend to ask for that very often, but it really, really does help the channel and the algorithm if you do that, so it is much appreciated. And of course, let me know in the comments below what you think is going to happen in 2022. I always like reading the comments and interacting with you, so do let me know about that. But like I said, I hope you did enjoy that one. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.